Straighten it out. There you go. Good afternoon. I needed to get a video out. I hadn't planned anything over my left shoulder here that just happened to be in the frame as I pulled up my camera. It's a box that I'm working on, so I'll do a short video on that. It's going to be a toolbox. It fits exactly in the shelves that I made, so I can just put my, well, at least some of my collection of hand tools in that, and it'll fit perfectly in there. I only mention it because I'm looking at the stuff behind me and I see the box. So that's what I've been working on today, among a couple other smaller projects, and it's late. And I didn't know what I was going to do, so I'm going to tell this story. Um, I was living on the streets in Boulder, Colorado. Now I had wandered through Boulder about four different times back in the back in the 2000s, and I don't know which time this was, but Boulder is a beautiful place. If if you just want to pull up stakes and go somewhere, which is exactly what I did. I didn't know a thing about it. I left from Ohio, got kicked out of my place, drove halfway across the country, ended up in Boulder, which was my destination, anyways, and I fell in love with it. It was beautiful. The flat irons. Actually, the morning that I was however many miles away, it just worked out perfect. The sun was coming up. I'm headed west. The sun's coming up behind me, and it was my first glimpse of the Rockies, and they were just being lit up, the very tallest peaks in golden sunlight, and it was beautiful. I'm driving across the plain. I see the Rockies, and I had been in mountains quite a few times back east, the Appalachians and up in New York, and those are different. You're in the rolling foothills for miles before you're in the mountains. It's not like the Rockies where you could see the Rockies. They just jut up out of the ground. It's like nothing we've got back east. In any event, that was my first exposure to Boulder. But I drifted around the West for quite a few years. But one of those times that I was in Boulder, there is a place called Pearl Street Mall. And I believe that it used to be a street, but now it's just a pedestrian mall. And the place is just fantastic. It's just a whole bunch of shops lining both sides of a street wide walkway. Uh, you've got you got a bunch of locals who will just be buskering their guitar, singing, whatever. You've got all kinds of drifters and hippies and the regular locals shopping. All kinds of food stores and outdoor patios and stuff like that. It's a really beautiful setup, and there are actually street performers who perform across the nation, and Boulder is like one of their big stops. But in any event, at the Flatiron end of it, the foothills there, the westernmost end, there is a bar, and there was a guy that used to, with a pallet jack, bring an upright piano down to Pearl Street Mall every night, just drop his piano there in front of the bar, put this big brandy snifter on the piano for tips, and just start playing. And that was his thing. He would just pallet jack his piano down to the bar. At the end of the night, pocket the money, roll the piano back up to wherever he lived and put it in the garage or wherever, and then the next night do the same thing. But This was one of the times when I was there and I was sober and I was actually working out of day labor. And there was this one guy at day labor who was just a fantastic jerk. Nobody liked him. And we all have had to deal with braggarts in life, so we all know what that is like. But if you're living on the streets, working out of day labor, and pretty much everybody in day labor is in the same position, you don't want to hear some asshole telling stories about how great he is because it's bad enough out in the real world. When you're in day labor with all the other, well, I was there, so I can call them this, with all the other street scum, you don't want to hear somebody bragging because either it's not true, and hey, we don't want to be lied to, or it is true, and you had all this stuff going on, and yet you couldn't maintain it, and here you are in day labor with us. Shut up. In any event, nobody liked him, but there was one thing that I admired about him because I'm a guitar player and a harmonica player. And my harmonica playing is, I never put a lot of time into it. It's as hard as guitar is, I've been playing for decades, so it's not a big deal. I understand the thing. Harmonica, harmonica takes some skill. Let me just say that. And this guy could play. This guy could play really well. And he had a set of harmonicas, and I can't remember what they're called. I'm gonna have to look. I know I got one. Oh, yeah. He had a set of Lee Oscar harmonicas. A bunch of different keys, and he used to just pull one out right there in the shop while we were waiting to get sent out to wherever that day and start jamming. And he was pretty damn good. And I admired that about him. And it was very hard for me to admire anything about him because every other aspect of his character was worthless. Well, one night, I've got my pack on, like always. When you're living on the streets, you carry everything with you everywhere you go. But I had my pack on, and I'm just wandering up and down Pearl Street Mall, and the piano is there with the brandy snifter, of course. Actually, I don't remember if the brandy snifter was there or not. He may have taken it into the bar to buy some drinks. In any event, the piano player was not there, but sitting on top of his piano was a case of Lee Oscar harmonicas. Now I know whose harmonicas these were because I've seen them a number of times at the day labor shop, and it's like, all right, I am going to get this guy's goat because he disturbs everyone so much. He deserves this. So I grabbed the case, put it in my pack, strolled off. Well, next Monday, there in day labor, I walked up to, I can't remember his name, and I'm just going to use Joe because I'm 99% sure that wasn't his name, but it doesn't matter. Nobody here knows him anyways. I walked up to Joe and I said, "Hey Joe, you got those harmonicas?" And his bag was there at his feet, and he says, "Yeah, they're right here." And he reaches down in his bag and he pulls out his case of Lee Oscar harmonicas. Oh, hell. Those harmonicas I took, they were not his, they were the piano player's. Now I had some splaining to do. Well, I don't know how many nights I went back down there before I saw the piano player again, but he was there, finally. And I didn't want to tell him what had actually happened because, well, of course, I didn't want to go up to him and say, "Hey, I stole your harmonicas because I thought they were somebody else's, and I realized that they're not somebody else's, and here I am returning them." you know, the truth. Well, I couldn't say that. So I went up to him, pulled a case of harmonicas out, and I said, some guy showed me these and asked me if I wanted to buy them. And I took them from him and said, look, I know who you stole these from, and I'm going to return them, and there's nothing you could do about it. That piano player was so happy to get him back, and that me, now the hero of the story, had returned him. He wanted to give me money. He wanted to buy me a drink. I refused to drink because I was sober at that time, but he just kept pushing the money on me. It was only like $15. I mean, only a case of harmonicas. That's like easily $100, depending on how many are in there. More than that, definitely. But finally, I couldn't, basically, without admitting the truth, I couldn't just keep turning down the money. I mean, he didn't know who I was, but he knew I was homeless. There was no reason for me to refuse the money unless I told him the truth, which I wasn't about to do at that point. So there you go. That's the gist of it. Basically, that's it. What I did basically was I tried to prank a guy that nobody else in that city liked. And what I accidentally did instead was steal the harmonicas from a guy that, as far as I could tell, everybody in that city liked. And I had to make good on it, which I did by returning the physical thing, but I couldn't be honest about it. I mean, I could have, but I wasn't. So, that is my story. That is what happened. Um, Nobody watches these videos anyways, so I doubt this will ever go there. But if the guy with the piano is still around, he remembers this event, and he happens to see this video, now you know what actually happened. I'm cashed up now. If I ever see you again, I'll give you the $15 back. We can sit down and laugh about it. But there you go. I made a mistake. I made as good on it as I was capable of at the time. That's where we're at. So I just want to thank you for watching. And if you didn't watch, well, what's wrong with you, man? Talk to you later.